Thursday, everybody. I have not gone live in a while. A lot has gone on, and I'm just thankful and blessed that I'm here. And this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I just truly thank God for everything that He is to me. And, you know, I hadn't gone live, like I said, in a while due to my father. He passed last month. So, a lot has been going on. We had to go back home to Georgia and do his homegoing celebration. And to be honest, it still seems surreal. Um, Not a day goes by that I don't think about my dad. He was an awesome father, and we can't say, or I won't say perfect, but he strived for perfection as a father, as a dad, as a husband. And I love my dad so much. I miss him so much, and I just miss calling, just checking on him, saying, hey daddy, how you doing, and just hearing his voice. I'm thankful that he's no longer in pain, and I can only imagine what he's beholding on the other side in heaven. And again, I miss my dad so much. I've never had to experience death on this level, this close to home, with it being my dad. Um, but I give God all the praise and glory. I thank Him for just wrapping His arms around not just me, but my family. Our family is a close-knit family, and it's not just my immediate family. It stretches far, and across my whole McDowell family. I'm a Crocker. My married name is Crocker, but on both sides of our family, it's a tremendous loss. Heaven's gain, but a tremendous loss of our father, our dad. And again, it's just one of those situations where you don't prepare for, and you just truly have to lean and depend on God for strength. All of His promises, you read in the Word how um, God is He will comfort us, and just His different promises that He gives us um, when we're going through. He promised that He would never leave us nor forsake us. And He said, lo, I will always be with you, even to the end of the world. And that's in death and sickness and whatever it is that we experience. Um, Thank you so much. I'm reading the comments. Now, I usually don't read the comments till after I do a video, but thank you guys so much for your kindness, for your love, um, for the loss of my dad. But again, I've never had to experience this. Sometimes you tell people, I'm sorry for your loss, or, my prayers are with you. But when you actually are being told these things, people have compassion, and it just don't seem real, but it's real. It's real. And I I'm thankful. Like I said, I'm thankful for the good times. I'm thankful for having my dad. He was 75 years old, and he would have been 75, and the Lord allowed him, I'm sorry, he was 75, and the Lord allowed him 75 years on this earth, and for the most part of his life he was healthy. So that's a blessing. But he ended up losing the I won't even say losing, because again, it's heaven's game. But and I'm sorry for kind of not being able to get my words quite together. But with man it's impossible, but with God all things are possible. So I give God all the praise and all the glory for this moment and this time, even now. And I thank him for, again, many wonderful memories with my dad. My dad loved fishing. He loved so many different things, sports. He would watch all kind of sports, guys. I mean, from golf to tennis to baseball. He loved the Braves. Baseball, football, basketball. He just loved sports. And westerns, oh my goodness, he loved westerns. But again, we have so many good memories with my dad. You know, even when we had our family time growing up, and even as adults, we had games, playing Monopoly, and just different things that we did as a family. That's just precious memories. And you know, my dad would not. He would be a part of these our different games and different things that we had. So I'm thankful for that. I really am. Um, we have a big family. It's 7 of us and 7 children. My mom and my mom and my dad. So it's just one of those things, one of those situations to where daily, you know, I have to really lean and depend on God day by day, moment by moment, and just pray for me, you know, pray for my family, my mother, my parents. They were married 53 years, and it would have been 54 years this year. But God is still good. And although I know my mom is sad, she's also thankful for the good times and thankful for, you know, the Lord saving my father, um, and taking him home to heaven. And he's not in pain anymore. So we're just thankful for that. But again, you know, I hadn't gone live in a while, and I quite honestly wasn't sure what I would say, you know. I know God is patient with us, and when he gives us an assignment or something that he wants us to do, he'll give us the strength. He said, my grace is sufficient. And I believe that, you know, with all my heart. But again, I know, you know, each day, day by day, it'll get better for me. And not just me, my family, you know, my dad's siblings. He was the youngest boy out of 6 siblings. And it's just, it's hard all the way around, you know. But again, the love that our family has for one another is priceless. Like my uncles say, it's priceless. My mom's brother, he was just a kind man within himself. And, you know, you never know how God will encourage you, no matter what it is that you may be facing or have gone through or going through, because I'm not the only one that have lost a loved one. It's just new to me on this level. Like I said, you know, I've experienced friends, family friends that have lost their loved ones, but, you know, being able to try to support them and help them wherever. But as far as, you know, it's the last time my dad's mom, my nana, she was the last one that well, actually I've had different relatives that have passed away as well. But again, you know, I just want to be transparent, because, you know, sometimes we can kind of spiritualize everything. And when I say over spiritualize, we're human, so it's natural to grieve. It's natural to feel away. You don't always feel like you're on a mountaintop, and it's okay because we're not superhumans. The Lord created us to have all these feelings. Jesus wept. He even wept. He had compassion on Mary and Martha. Lazarus was his friend. He was sad by what happened with Lazarus, before raising him. But God didn't see fit to do that in my dad's case. He saw fit to take him home. And that was his perfect will for my dad. So with his will, with his perfect will, I'm okay with that. I'm thankful that my daddy he's no longer in pain. I can truly say that, and I'm thankful for that. Again, I'm thankful for the time that the Lord gave him to our family. And regardless of different things in life, my dad really wasn't strict. Like I said, it was 7 of us, and 5 girls, 2 boys. And with the girls, as far as punishment, my dad, he never really punished the girls. He just didn't believe in, we call it back then whooping, or, punishment, with switches or belts, or, spankings, with what they call it now, spankings. But back then, my mother, she was, I guess it was considered corporal punishment, but she was the disciplinary with the girls, and my dad disciplined my brothers. But we just, the way they maintained that the household was, it worked. No household is perfect. We all had our issues. No family is perfect, but God blessed us. He really did. He really blessed us. And I'm thankful for the good. I say the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because if I said that our life was perfect, I would just be lying. So I thank God for everything that, we experienced. But again, I'm thankful for those talks with my dad. He has so much wisdom. And, my dad, when I would go home, he would have what they call a bean party, him and his friend Kevin. He's a close family friend of ours. He's more like an uncle. But he would say, "Nay, I got those beans for you." And he would make them especially for me, And even when I got to the place where I couldn't hardly eat as much, he still would have those beans. "I got those beans for you, Nay," because he know I loved them. So he made sure he went out his way to get those beans. And I'm talking old school. I'm not talking opening up cans. I'm talking these beans. You go and you wash them, and he had all these different, because he know I loved them. So he went and he washed all these different beans, and they would get this smoked meat, and it was so good. And I said, well, I won't have my daddy's beans, and he won't make me any more beans. And I wish I would have asked him. I was enjoying. It never dawned on me to ask him, "Well, Daddy, how do I prepare these?" Because I can cook, but I never would like cook. That was his specialty. I'm quite sure if I learned or wanted to learn, I could have, but I was just enjoying the beans. That was just something he did for me. So I was just thankful for that. But again, I'm just reflecting, if you'll bear with me, just reflecting on those good memories that I had with my daddy, and just thankful again for all those years, that the Lord gave him to our family, and just thankful for even the mercy and grace that he showed to our dad. I remember one time, this was some time ago, this was before my dad was able to get his 100% through the military, there was times when, I mean, my parents, they struggled like earlier in life after my dad. Sometimes you don't understand things as kids. You just know that your needs are being met, that everything is being provided. So, as far as we were concerned, we were fine. We didn't know what all our parents had to go through, or how, they provided for us. We just knew that these things were provided. Anyway, but I remember one time I was like in middle school, and this house we were living in, we were in Georgia. We had moved back, and we had moved a couple of times. But anyway, this particular house we lived in, close to Fort Benning, and I just noticed it was a time during when my parents, some kind of way, I don't know what happened, but we were without a car, and that was like the first time ever that they were without transportation. And my dad, he was just so hard working. Even in that hard place, my dad would get up and walk. And I remember just standing in the window. It was like a window, and the Lord allowed me to see, because there's some things we just don't understand. But for whatever reason, I saw my dad from afar. He was walking. He had gotten off work, and he was coming, home. And he had his army coat on. It was he was no longer in the army, but this coat he would wear sometimes. And he was walking. He had his head down, and the Lord let me see just how much my daddy loved not just me, but my mother, our family, because he sacrificed a lot, a lot. He was determined to take care of his family by any means necessary, even through the good, the bad, the ugly, transportation or no transportation. He got up and he went to work. That wasn't an option for him. He was always a hard-working man, and he always provided, always. And I'm just thankful for that work ethic that my daddy had. And we all have those good work ethics. My mother, she has good work ethics, but this is about my dad. And I'm just thankful that the Lord allowed me to see my dad coming across the street. And it's like I just looked at him in a different way. Like I could see the strength that I could not. Sometimes you could see something and not really understand, but he just allowed me to just zoom in and see just how much my daddy loved me and loved our family. And just to know that through rain, sleet, or snow, he is going to go to work regardless. And I don't know if he was working at Tom's Foods or Sunray Cleaners. He always would keep a job. He just did whatever he had to do down through the years. He had gotten out the army. He had stopped working for the city. He drove the garbage truck for a long time, and he was a correctional officer then. But I don't know what happened, but I do know that he was always working, no matter what. He didn't care. He was always working, always providing for us. And God, I really believe he blessed my parents' marriage because of the will for each one of them. Like I said, they weren't perfect. Nobody's perfect. No marriage is perfect. But they saw something far more or far greater than themselves. They really took their vows serious. Again, just like anybody else, they had their issues and their, things that they went through personally. But God saw them through, and he ended up blessing them to be able to spend 53 years of marriage together. And I'm grateful for that. I really am. And my daddy loved my mom. My mom loved my dad, but my daddy loved my mom. And he would have given anything just to make sure she was happy, whatever he needed to do. My dad, he always liked to look good. He, have all his jerseys and his sweats, and he just always liked to look good. Even when they were in a place where we didn't have much, my daddy was gonna crease his pants, and you couldn't tell him nothing. He was gonna look good regardless, and I admired that about my dad. He's not gonna step out any old kind of way. He was gonna always look decked out. And that was just him the whole time. All, even when he was in the army, and working for the city, he just always was clean, always. And I know I can't tell it all right now, but again, I'm grateful. I am truly grateful for how God have truly blessed my daddy. He truly blessed him. I'm just glad that he was able to enjoy, even though the latter part of his life, my dad, he went through a lot. And I know, the last time I was able to see my dad was in February. And we had gone back to Georgia for my Uncle Red's funeral, my husband's uncle. Well, he's my uncle too, but we had gone for Uncle Red's funeral, and I didn't get to spend as much time with my dad because I was there trying to support my husband and my husband's family and just be there for them. So, and my daddy, he understood that. My mom, they understood that, while we were there. So they weren't, you know, I'm thankful that my parents weren't not like a kind of like a jealous spirit to where like saying things like, well, you don't even spend, they never said that. They never they didn't feel away. They knew the reason why we came home. And I love them for that. But the last time I'm sorry if y'all hear the vehicle. It's like the next street over, but it's loud. Well, actually, the highway is like over a couple of streets. But anyway, from our house. But anyway, the last time I was able to actually spend time with my dad was for his birthday. He turned 75. And we gave him a birthday. We had a small celebration for him, and we sang happy birthday to him, and we were just loving on him. And it was then, my dad had never talked. He was always positive. Regardless of what's going on, he would always find something positive. He wasn't a talkative man unless, like later on, by nature, he was more quiet. But if you sat next to him, my dad was very wise. So you could ask him anything, and he would give you wisdom. Or he would never tell you what you should do, but he was very wise. I will say it like that. But the last time that, I was able to actually sit and talk to my dad, he said, I'm just tired. And I could look at him and tell, because he had lost, a lot of weight going through chemo and radiation and the different things. It had taken a toll. And my daddy he was very strong by nature, very, resilient in everything. And he still was. His body had taken a major hit. And he said, I'm just tired. And I remember going to his doctor's appointment with him. And we were walking. We had to kind of go back and forth to the different appointments. And we went to the John B. Amos Cancer Center. My dad had to have a couple of treatments. And he was saying he was just tired. And within myself, you just want to hope for the best. You don't want to accept that your parent, I'm not saying he was giving up on life, but he was tired. And he began to voice that more and more. So we had gone back to my parents' house, and he was saying, I'm just tired. I'm tired. And he was, shaking his head. He said, I'm tired. I said, Daddy, don't talk like that. I was trying to tell him, you're going to be all right. But he said, I'm tired. I'm tired. It's like the way he was saying it, like, this the last mile. This is my last mile. You know, he was tired. And, you hear, I'm sorry for the tears, but it's my daddy. And, but, you hear people say, when they start saying they tired, then, they're going to be, it's not going to be long. But he was trying to prepare, I think he was just trying to prepare us in his way, because he didn't talk like that. He didn't talk like that. But he kept his head up as long as he could, and he fought a good fight. And I can't say he lost the battle, because he won the battle, actually. But it appears that he lost it. But truly he gained. When he went to heaven, he gained. And I was, riding down the street last week, and I just looked up in the sky, and the moon was so bright. It was so bright. It was beautiful. And I couldn't help but to think that my daddy was on the other side of that moon. And thinking, I was riding with my husband, and, we began to talk about, how the words say, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. And my husband was like, I said, well, my daddy, I had told a few people, I said, he probably got a gold fishing pole with, because he loved fishing so much. I said, he probably got that gold fishing pole, they probably handed him a gold one when he got to heaven. And my husband said, no, he probably not fishing. And that's when we start saying, about when the words say, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. The things that my daddy is experiencing, I'm pretty sure at some point he gonna fish. Where there's a George McDowell Sr. in any body of water, he gonna throw a pole in any body of water. And God knows he loves fishing, so I'm quite sure he fishing. But I'm sorry for wiping my nose with my hands, and ugly crying and all of that, but it's still it's tears of joy. Tears of joy, sadness, but also I can't explain. I'm happy that my dad is in heaven, but on this side, I just miss his physical presence. But just like anything else, I just have to take it day by day. My husband, I thank God for him, and encouraging me, different ones, but my husband always encouraging to me, and just letting me know you gonna be okay, because he loved my daddy too, and I had to check on him too. I even apologized to him, because I said, you and my daddy, y'all had a beautiful relationship too. And my husband had been crying off and on, and because when you have a relationship with someone and you love them, it's hard to, kind of go on with your day to day. without just knowing that they're not there. And so I just have to check on him too and make sure he's all right. He was telling me, he said, the Lord, my dad, my dad left. I think he said he was 17 when his dad passed away, but the Lord gave him another dad that loved him just as much for 17 years. We've been married 15 years, but we've been knowing each other longer. And it was a blessing that my dad and my husband got along, and he loved my husband. They actually had a wonderful relationship. So I just thank God for the good times. And, my dad wouldn't want me to just be sitting around sad, because that wasn't him. But he would just sit by me and just encourage me to go on. So, to my brothers and sisters, my mom, my aunts and uncles, my family, my loved ones and friends, we gotta keep going, even though it's hard. We gotta keep going so we can see Daddy one day. And just while we wait, we just gotta take one day at a time, to get through whatever it is that we are faced with. My daddy was very encouraging. No matter what I was faced with, he was encouraging. So I won't be able to call him on this side or sit by him and chat with him, but I can still make him proud. And do the best that I can, and not quit. Because, even in those times when I made bad choices and did things that I shouldn't, my daddy, he still never downed me. He never downed me about my bad choices that I made throughout my life. I thank God for picking me back up. But I thank him also for giving me a dad that loved me unconditionally and really, really, genuinely, unconditionally loved me and did not cast stones, didn't say, well, you shouldn't have did that, or, this, that, and he didn't do that. Not saying that he liked different things. I remember one time in particular, he didn't like something, and he sat down and he talked to myself and one of my children's dad, and he just told us how he felt. And he didn't down me, he didn't down him, but he said how he felt, and that's just how he was. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for love, unwavering. And although, you know, time is passing and, we can't get back. You can't get back lost time, but you can go on and you could try your best to take day by day, put one foot in front of the other, and you could just keep going. Just keep going and do the best that you can. So, with what I have, thank God for the life that He's blessed me with. I just want to continue to, my daddy would always say, he would say that he's proud of me, or if it's something you were doing, that's just him. He would say, he would voice if he's proud of you, he would say it, or if he liked something. And I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss, you know, hearing his voice. But again, I know that God doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't make mistakes. And he's so gracious, you know. He could have decided, if he wanted to take him some years ago, he could have. But God, he gave us our dad all these years. He gave him 75 years, but he gave us 40 plus, gave me 40 plus years, almost 50 years. I'm aging myself, but that's okay. I thank God. But he gave me almost 50 years with my dad. And that's a blessing. And my children, our grandchildren, they got to experience him. May not have been as long as we have, but the fact is, we thank God that the patriarch, his shoes, won't be filled. We used to play, like I said, games and stuff as a family. And one of the main games we used to play is Monopoly. And my daddy's favorite piece was the car. He was the car. And I'm saying he was the car. Was he the car or was he the shoe? I think my daddy was the car. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, like Shannon Sharp says. But, you know, in the game of Monopoly, when your piece is removed off the board, nobody can go and take that piece and start picking up and playing with that piece. When that piece is off the board, that's it. Nobody else can't. You gotta assume your role. My mom, her piece was the dog, and one of my sister's piece was the horse. Everybody had their own piece, but nobody can go back and pick up the piece that's no longer on the board. And that's how it is with my daddy. you know Nobody won't be able to feel take his place. Nobody won't be able to take his place. And I'm thankful for the time that God allowed us to have, and allowed me to have with my dad, but allowed us to have with him. I'm thankful, I'm grateful, because everybody can't say that. Again, my daddy was not a perfect man, but my daddy was very intentional in his love, the love that my daddy had for us. It was not questionable. I couldn't say I wondered if my daddy loved me. That just wasn't a question. I know my daddy loved me, and would voice that. He would voice it. My daddy was very affectionate. Out of both of my parents, out of my mom and my dad was more affectionate than my mom in that sense. He would hug and say, "I love you." My mom, as we gotten older, she says it more now. But my dad was always, you didn't have to worry. And when he could support, because like I said, it was a lot of us, he would support when he could. But he worked. But I tell you what, we had our family times. Like I said, we played Monopoly. We would go, sometimes the whole family, we'd go fishing or wherever else, if it's to somebody's house. Or a lot of times people would come over our house, my dad's friends, different ones. But I'm thankful. I'm grateful for my dad and the life and his legacy and everything that he was. My daddy was a great man, and I'm thankful. I'm so grateful and thankful for his love and his unchanging love. Again, he was he was very intentional, and if he didn't like something now, he you know he didn't like it. He voiced that too. But for the most part, and like I said, he he just was a well of love. And for that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the time I had with him, like I said. Well, I've been rambling on for some time. The sun then went out, then went away, and then came up, then went back, and it started to get chilly out here in Houston. But I'm thankful for it's beautiful out here. It really is. And you see the greenery behind me, the little banana trees growing back. I don't know if can y'all see those trees. Everything has a season. You see the ground back there? All of that'll be filled in a couple of months. All of that'll be filled in, and it's beautiful. I just enjoy the plants and watching things grow. And I used to I didn't like flowers and plants as a kid. I just didn't. But you know, with time brings about a change. So I'm sorry for all this crying and stuff, but I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because it's necessary. And like I was telling one of the brothers at church yesterday when I went to Bible study, you know, I have my moments, and just I know God will he'll see us through. He'll see me through, but he's going to see us all through. And we just have to continue that legacy that my dad's, you know, those memories and the legacy he left for us to love family. His thing was family. My dad was big on family. He loved his family. He loved us. He really loved us. And even friends, you know, he was just big on family and family time. So we just have to continue that part. You know, we say that part, but that part right there. My dad ended his story. He ended his chapter. And so now we got to continue to be continued and walk out our part and do the best we can. I know life goes on even through these times like this, but God, again, he promised he would never leave or forsake us. He said, lo, I will be with you always, even to the end of the world. And that's a promise. So I thank him for his promises. His promises is sure. So anyway, God bless you all. I'm sorry for rambling on and on. But again, you know, I just felt led to get on live and just talk it out. Um, the Lord have not said who's or told me who's going to come on the podcast next, but God will. He's going to make provision. He's going to open doors. Um, I have to just trust him in everything. I have to just trust him and know that he's going to provide. Sometimes you know, you try to do a thing on your own and it seems like it's just not working out. But one of my favorite scriptures is Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 6. And the Lord's he says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, with all thine heart. The King James Version says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. So I'm just going to go back again. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. The Lord says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. So if we just put God first, it's easy to say, oh, put God first, seek God. But truly, if we put him first, we can't go wrong. Even if it don't feel like you can't see, but faith without works is dead. Faith is seeing. You may not see, but that's how you walk in faith. Walk by faith. For we walk by faith and not by sight. So that's what we have to do. Walk by faith and walk not by sight. My daddy, he was big in his faith. Big faith. Again, my daddy was not perfect, but I'm telling you, those things that he did well. And he did a lot of things well. And I'm thankful and grateful for my superhero, my daddy. So I am forever thankful to God for his loving kindness and for giving me a dad that genuinely loved me and my family, my husband, my children, our family as a whole. Loved my mom. I'm just thankful. He loved our family, like I said, as a whole. And again, I keep saying this, no family is perfect, because sometimes people think, oh, y'all don't have, everybody have some type of issue. But what I am saying is love is what we had. That love was the glue. What is love? God is love. Love was that driving force. So I'm thankful for that love that we had with my dad and that we have now as a family and will continue to have. Even in times when, we may not even agree on certain things, because you're not going to always agree with your family members. You're not going to always agree with what, you know, what is going on in whatever situation. But you still love your family. You love your family regardless, you know, and find ways to work things out, because you never know, you never know, you know, what tomorrow holds. You just take each day, and you just never know. And then sometimes you may be having different things, y'all going through different things. Sometimes people don't voice exactly what it is that they're going through. Maybe something hard, and they're acting out in a way that you may be annoyed with or you don't like why they act like that. But God knows why they act like that. Just pray for them and love them, hug them, do something kind for them. You know, you don't have to necessarily tell them what you're doing, but you just never know what impact you will make in just loving a person, loving them well, rather. How can you love a person well? By not holding things against them. Unconditional love. Regardless of what's going on, you still love them, still show kindness to them. Anyway, I've been sitting out here long enough, and I feel like a car that's running out of gas. So it's time for me to go on back in the house. I'm out here on my backyard, and one of the sisters at the church, I call her my auntie. She would love it out here. It's nice out here, but I'm starting to get a little chilly. So anyway, I really enjoyed this day, And I'm thankful again for today. So I got workflow on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. Happy Thursday again. And thank you for allowing me to just kind of get it off my chest and just kind of share my heart about my dad. So anyway, God bless you all. Love on somebody. Do something kind for someone. You don't even necessarily have to know them to show kindness. Be intentional about what you do. Do it from the bottom of your heart. Don't have a motive, a bad motive. Just do something kind for somebody. You know, extend grace, extend mercy, you know. And remember that Jesus loves you. He cares for you. And again, I'm thankful for today. I'm thankful for so many different things. I really am. You know, yesterday, I'm going into another story. I said I was going to get off of here. But yesterday was my granddaughter's birthday. And she's so sweet, so kind. And, you know, she's 5 years old. And, you know, 5, you know, that's, you're on another level when you turn 5. But I'm thankful for her. And she is just such a sweet little girl. So sweet, so loving. But anyway, God bless you all. May the Lord continue to walk with you. May the Lord continue to meet your needs, whatever those needs are, regardless if it's spiritual, financial, physical, mental, emotional, whatever that need is. May the Lord meet your need right where you are. And again, do something kind for someone. Love on somebody. Anyway, God bless you. Have a blessed Thursday. And oh, you guys, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. And have a happy Easter. I thank God for Jesus dying on the cross, you know, for not just my sins, but the sins of the world. So you guys remember while you're celebrating Easter, what Jesus did for us. He did so much for us, but his word, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever should believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Peace out. Bye. God bless you. And I hadn't gone live in so long, I about forgot how to stop the live. All right. Bye, guys.